All right, in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how you can begin your second assignment, basically, which is going to take your first assignment, duplicate the folder so that we don't mess anything up from the original assignment. You'll always have something to go back to. And we're going to style it. So this is a CSS assignment. Okay, first of all, let's go ahead and go into where you kept your last assignment. So if you go into your place where you're keeping that in mind, it's Matt 125, last name, first name. And then you see here we've got assignment 1, and that's what we had with the HTML stuff. Okay, and as a reminder, this is kind of what it looked like. Okay, all right. So what you want to do is, there are two ways you can do this. If you're on a Mac, what you can do is you can right-click this, and you can say duplicate, and what it'll do is it'll duplicate this, and then you just rename it to be assignment 2. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. The other thing that you can do too is you can right click it on Windows or on a Mac. You can copy it right there, and then if you just click right inside again of the Matt 125 last name first name or whatever you called it, your class root directory, and then you right click and just say paste item, you can duplicate it that way. And then of course we need to rename it, and we'll call it assignment 2. Okay, so assignment 2 is what you need to work with. And so that should have copied over everything that was already in the assignment 1 folder. So we're good to get started now. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and go into the brackets editor. Let's get that started. And most likely what you're going to see is that it remembers the last project that you were working on, which was assignment 1. So make sure that you don't just immediately start working on that. What you want to do instead is go where it says assignment 1 and there's a little drop down arrow. You want to click the drop down arrow and you want to say open folder. Because we already duplicated it, we can go find that. So make sure that you find the correct assignment folder, which is assignment 2. And you're going to say open. Okay, and so now it's got your assignment 2 set up. Okay, and then we want to go ahead and open the index file, and then it'll put that up here in your working files. The next thing that we can do is we want to create a CSS file. So if you come up here to go File, New, we can just start with the CSS, and what you'll do is you'll go ahead and say File, Save, and as soon as it sees the CSS file extension, it'll know how to code hint and how to color format your stuff. So let's just call it styles.css, and we're going to save it in the root directory of assignment 2. So it'll sit in the parallel directory alongside index.html. All right, and so now it recognizes that it's a CSS page. And for this, you don't have to go and find any template, because with CSS, it's just what you add. There's no prerequisite requirements like the way, say, that there was in the HTML file with a doc type, HTML declaration head and body. CSS, you just start creating your rules. All right, the next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this index file is linking up to the CSS file. Because if you want to double check, let me show you something real quick. Let's just close this up a little bit and we can do a live preview. All right, and let's take a look. I'm going to close some things real quick. Okay, and you can see here that it looks exactly like it did before. Now let's go over here and let's create a link to the CSS file that we just created. All right, so to do that, you always want to put your CSS file links up inside of the head of the body, and I'm going to go ahead and put it immediately under the title. It doesn't always have to go there, but there's no reason that it shouldn't go there right now. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to start typing your open bracket, and you're first going to type the word link, and you see it starts to pop up, and I'll choose that, and we're going to say href, because href is the hyperreference to where that link is supposed to be found. All right, and then it gives us an option where we can choose what file to use. We're going to choose styles because we just created it, it's there. And then the next thing that you have to have is you have to have an rel attribute or a relationship attribute, and then we're going to choose that the relationship is a style sheet, and if you scroll down you'll see the word style sheet. Okay, and then you can just, oops, you can just end that. This is one of those self-closing tags. You don't have to have a close link tag that's separate. All right, so now that that's there, this isn't going to look any different because we don't have any special rules inside of that style sheet. Now, if we jump to the style sheet, we could do something really simple. Let's create a rule for the body. Okay, because if you remember, let me just show you really quickly. The body is everything that's in the viewport, right? On line 8 of the file right now, you can see that there's a body tag. And there's only ever one instance of the body tag, but basically we can create a rule that will target any instance of body. It just happens to be that there should only be one. So anyway, in my style sheet, I'm going to create what's called a selector, okay? And it is just the word body. There's no dot, there's no hashtag, nothing in front of it. Anytime you want to target a piece of HTML, any instance of HTML in that HTML file, so that it will apply certain types of properties to that HTML tag, what you're going to use is this selector type that is called an HTML or a tag selector. They can be referred to as HTML selector, tag selector, or element selector, but typically it's going to be either HTML or tag selector if you hear someone talking about it. Okay, so, and it's literally, it's just the name of the tag, but it doesn't have any brackets around it or anything like that. Okay, now, once you type the name of the selector, and that's going to literally select every instance of that HTML element, you're going to, you can either put a space or not. I usually put a space, but you only want to put one space. And then you would put an open curly brace, okay, and then because I have curly braces set to auto complete up here in edit, you see auto close braces. It automatically puts the ending brace, which is wonderful, and it puts my cursor right in between so that I can just start typing my properties that are going to be applied to that selector. If I hit the return key, this is just fine. And what it does is it indents naturally for me so that I can just start typing my properties. For right now, we're going to just apply something to make sure that it's actually linking up properly with the style sheet. So I'm going to type the word background. And as soon as I start to type that, BA, all these different background options pop up. Now, there are two different ways to type CSS properties. And by the way, if you don't remember all the different parts of speech of a rule, you can always, I'm going to talk about a little bit here, but if you need to refer back, you can go to the lecture. There's a PDF also from the CSS lecture that you should have hopefully already reviewed or watched before doing this, but you can always go back and refer to that. So what we have here is a property name. There are two different ways to write properties typically. There is shorthand and there's longhand. All of these things that say background dash attachment, background dash whatever, right? Those are referred to as longhand because it's a longer way of writing it. Background, however, is shorthand. What background can do is it can take multiple different values just in one line. If I were to say background dash image in longhand, however, I could only put the value for the background image. I would have to have something separate that said background dash color if I wanted a background color. With just background, it can actually take a lot of different values in here, okay? So if I want to give it a color, let's just say that I want it to be, for right now, let's say green, just so I can see it. And immediately it changes. That helps me understand right away that my CSS style sheet is properly linked up and it's working, okay? If you typed the word green and it didn't change, all right, that means that you don't have it properly linked up. Now, the next thing that I would need to do after typing the value that I want is I would need to terminate it with a semicolon, okay? So let's just go over really quickly the parts of speech here. Okay, body is the selector, and then inside of the curly braces, that's referred to the declaration block. Okay, and then inside of the declaration block, you can have multiple properties. Right now, we just have one property of background, and then the value of that property is green. So we have a green background that is targeting the body selector. And then this terminator, of course. All right, so And then this is just a regular colon that has to come after the property. And then let me just show you, you can either have a space here or not. It doesn't matter, but you don't want more than one space. Now, if I wanted to apply other properties to the background, like a background image or something like that, let's just do that really quickly, just to show you. First thing I'd probably want to do is put the color. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave it this color, but I'd probably want to put the color, and then I could put a space, and then the next value would be available. And let's just say that I wanted a background image to repeat. So I don't have any other images there, but for right now, let's just do something obnoxious. Let's do URL. Okay, and see how it went white? It's because now it's an incomplete, improperly written rule, and until I complete it properly, it's going to show up as not working properly. Anyway, so to put a background image, you would do URL, and there is no space here, okay? And you would put normal parentheses, and inside the parentheses, you would put the name of the image. So I'm going to type the pathway to the picture file that I have in there. And let me just see actually if it'll let me browse. Let's type this one more time. So URL. Yeah, see, it's not prompting me to browse. Yeah, and it still isn't prompting me to browse. You can either put it in single quotes or not. Either one is appropriate and fine. Anyway, so if I type images and / and I think the name was pic-400.jpg, and if I wasn't sure about that, and I need to make sure I close this, if I wasn't sure about that, you can always look over here in your images to see what the name of the file is. And what it's going to do is it's going to automatically repeat all over the page. Well, this is obnoxious, right? This is silly, and I'm going to make that go away. But I just wanted to show you and sort of make a point. And the thing is also, if I wanted it to repeat only maybe in one direction, I could put a space here and I could say repeat only on the y-axis, which is up and down, so repeat y. And you can see that it only repeats on the vertical axis. If I said repeat x, it would be horizontal, right? You can see that though, whenever I have nothing there, the default is to repeat in both directions. To be explicit, you could also say repeat, and it repeats in both directions. If you want it to not repeat, you could say no dash repeat. Okay, so that's just another value that you can add. I'm going to just get rid of that completely, because really the whole point of me doing this was only to see that my style sheet was available. So I'll go back and I'll put some other color. Let's just put something that's only slightly less offensive. All right, like pink. All right. And then the other thing I want to show you too, okay, that's background. If I were to do background dash image, it would still work, right? So, or sorry, not background dash image, background dash color, okay? It would still work. And then there's that pink color again, okay? And then the other thing too that you'll notice is that if I did longhand, this didn't pop up for me whenever I was doing shorthand, because I could have done any value, but if I do background dash color, it knows exactly what I'm doing, what I'm asking for. And there are also, in addition to hexadecimal numbers, the hex values for numbers, you can also choose from a predefined set of colors that are acceptable word colors in HTML. So I could do like dark salmon or something like that, or Alice blue or whatever. They have all these different words that you can use. Okay, so that's just a little bit about it. And I don't have any expectation that you're going to remember all of these things, okay? That you're going to remember all of these property names and all of the possible values. You're not going to remember all of those right away. That is just something that's going to come with practice, and you have to just sort of play around with it and learn. And that's one of the reasons that it's so valuable to have the auto hinting on, because it helps you learn not just what it is that you're trying to remember to type, like background, but it also gives you an opportunity to see what all these other options are, okay? All right, so let's just do background for right now though, so we can be efficient about it. And let's just say that the background is pink, and we'll change that. Okay, so let's save that. And we can move on to the next video where we're going to start talking about color and how to add some other properties.